The cultivators from Empyrean occupied the city of the ruins, resulting in the formation of the three great powers of this universe. Unlike before, countless cultivators from Empyrean had traveled into this world and formed a legion of the great emperors, with an immortal emperor-level cultivator as their commander this time. They were waiting to summon their immortal sovereign into this world and reign over it. Then they would assimilate it as a part of Empyrean. Following that, the Heavenly Mandate Court, Donghuang Imperial Palace, and several other forces had many battles with the cultivators of Empyrean. Meanwhile, the people of the Heavenly Palace of the Heavenly Realm did not make a move. Ji Wudao only focused on his cultivation, without laying a hand on the forces of the Heavenly Mandate Court. Sometime later, the battles among these three forces turned into a prolonged conflict that affected many people. Eventually, every cultivator in the world had caught wind of their clashes and the current situation of the world. 5 years had passed in the city of Qingzhou. Martial arts have thrived since the beginning of the new era. The strength of the cultivators of the city of Qingzhou was nothing like before, as they had already learned a lot. At that time, the youths in the Qingzhou Academy were casually chatting with each other. "Dingchen, what are you planning to cultivate in the future?" a youngster asked. "Sword." Dingchen was a young man who looked to be around 15. He stared at the sky with a determined look and continued, "I want to be like the three sword gods who could wipe the intruders from another universe out of this world, preventing the foreign cultivators from running amok in the 9 states. A while ago, a few powerful cultivators had tried to infiltrate the 9 states, but they were killed before successfully entering the land. Shortly after, more of them attempted to invade the 9 states, when the three sword gods had suddenly shown up. That day, Sword Chi had covered the entire 9 states and had annihilated every invader. From then on, countless people had wanted to cultivate the way of the sword all of a sudden. On the same day, a peerless Sword Chi could be felt in the sky of the city of Qingzhou. "I've heard some rumors saying that the reason the three sword gods have protected the 9 states had something to do with our city," a youngster commented. "I've heard the same thing as well." Gramps said that according to his ancestors, a legendary figure had been in our city a long time ago. Who knows? They said it was something that had taken place 200 years ago. It could be folklore or a mere rhodomontade of the elders of our city. Didn't Mr. Hua always love to tell exaggerated stories? Reading on mybos.com, please. The young people were talking about something that had happened 200 years ago. Naturally, it felt like a distant past to them. Third senior brother had ordered the swordmaster of Lihan, Yaya, and Wuxian to return and protect the 9 states. He didn't want anyone to interrupt us. Although Hua Jiyu seemed to be talking to herself, she believed he could hear her. She had been staying by his side all these years. By doing so, she assumed that he was still around physically. A breeze wafted past the leaves, causing them to rustle and jiggle. The 2 big trees were exuding a powerful aura of vitality. The gentle breeze blew on Hua Jiyu's skin and fluttered her long hair. A gleam flashed across her eyes as she stared at the 2 trees. As the aura of vitality intensified, she could feel the presence of Yi Futian gradually grow stronger. "I know you'll be back, right? I'll be right here waiting for you." Her eyes were brimmed with tears as Hua Jiyu felt that presence. The woman had been waiting for 5 years, and she would continue to stay here and wait. She did not shed tears because she could not wait any longer, but being afraid that her expectations would end up as a disappointment, and that the things she had been longing for would never come to pass. As she sat in a lotus position, Hua Jiyu lowered her head to look at the zither producing a euphonious melody. The sequence of soul-stirring notes added a hint of sorrow to the serene background. The trees swayed ceaselessly at the sound of the zither, causing their leaves to fall all over the place, while some dropped beside Hua Jiyu. Rays of light emitted from the tree behind Hua Jiyu. In the next instant, a silhouette could be seen slowly taking shape. It did not interrupt her zither performance, but listened to the music quietly with a tender look in its eyes. Sensing something out of place, Hua Jiyu turned her head around to catch a glimpse of the scene. At once, her fingers playing the instrument came to a halt, and froze there without moving an inch. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she stood up and stretched her shivering hand to reach the silhouette. However, she could not touch the figure that looked incorporeal. Is this an illusion? Hua Jiyu mumbled in the reflection of her fear of disappointment. Truthfully, it was impossible for an individual of her cultivation level to fall into an illusion. Still, she was afraid that her yearning for him might have caused her to hallucinate. No. A disembodied and angelic voice informed Hua Jiyu. With a shaking voice she asked, "Why can't I touch you?" I had left a consciousness here back then. Now it had transformed into my avatar, Futian explained. Stretching his hand, he tried to stroke Hua Jiyu's long hair while looking delighted. Now that he had shown up here, it would not be long before his eventual return. Okay. Hua Jiyu nodded. Futian then turned his eyes to look at the other tree beside him, only to find it transformed into a phantom that looked like Xia Qingyuan. A year had passed in the city of Qingzhou. The night view of Qingzhou Lake was beautiful. The cultivators here loved to gather around this place after nightfall. Some of them would raft the boats on the lake, while the others would enjoy the cooling breeze on the lakeside. Each of them had their way of taking in the city's serenity. A ship was seen hovering on the lake, while the sound of the zither could be heard coming from it. The beauty who played a piece of melodious music with the zither caught the crowd's attention. Many of them would nod at the person who played the instrument. Some of the young people even looked at the zither player with infatuation, but most would keep their feelings to themselves. Mr. Hua was the chief instructor of Qingzhou Academy, a well-respected individual at the academy. All the citizens knew him well, especially his daughter, Huan Yinyu, who had a stunning countenance and was admired by many. Although she had many admirers, most of them felt ashamed of their plain appearance and knew they would never match her. At the same time, some of the bystanders were staring at a man and woman duo behind Huan Yinyu. The man had long silver hair with a handsome face, while the woman was gorgeous. She had an even better temperament than Huan Yinyu. Immediately, the people of the city of Qingzhou knew that she was the sister of Huan Yinyu. Staring at the beauties, everyone wondered how did Mr. Hua beget not one but two of such beautiful daughters. With an attractive appearance that surpassed even Huan Yinyu's, it was unavoidable that she would be the center of attention. Naturally, Futian received a lot of hateful glares. Their eyes were green with envy at the sight of him having two beauties by his side, while Huan Yinyu performed songs with the zither. Many of them thought that if they were the ones being treated like that, they could finally die as a happy man. According to hearsay, this person was the disciple of Mr. Hua, and he loved to brag as well. What super VIP treatment he had there. Someone mumbled while rafting their boat past. Being born handsome is surely a privilege. Some of them looked at Futian and then stared back at themselves. The difference between outward appearance made them feel downbeat. After all, his white hair and temperament had only further enhanced his graceful bearing. Futian paid no heed to the stares of the onlookers. Although the people in the city were looking at him with envy and jealousy, most of them were simple-minded. His perspective had long since changed following the achievement of his current cultivation level. Leaning against the boat, Futian enjoyed the scenery of Qingzhou Lake during the night. It was reminiscent of those days from him. He would come here every day to sit on a boat, living the life of an ordinary person, while enjoying the sight of people going about in their lives. It was as if he could see himself as one of them. Reading on mybosnovel.com, please. We should enjoy this scenery with a good drink, some songs, and recite a poem, Futian uttered with a smile. Be my guest, Hua Jiyu replied as she curled the corners of her lips. It's a shame that I'm unlearned and have limited literacy, Futian sighed. Hua Jiyu rolled her eyes to the back of their sockets while Xia Qingyuan let out a chuckle. If I were to choose between having beauties in such a breathtaking landscape and the whole world, I would pick the former, Futian teased after seeing the smiles of the two of them, only to be glared at by them. However, this was when Hua Jiyu was the happiest, as there was no conflict. Plus, Futian did not have to focus on his mission, so he got to spend all his time with them. She did not mind sharing this serenity with Xia Qingyuan at all. A life like this was already considered a dream come true. It was the same for Xia Qingyuan as well. What more could she ask for? Time had never been so kind to her before. Still, she knew this happy moment was only temporary. There was no telling what would happen in the future. Although Hua Jiyu had covered the entire city of Qingzhou with her divine power of colorless realm, it was impossible that Yi Futian did not realize the things that happened outside. After all, he was the one who created this heavenly path. But since Yi Futian did not mention it, they did not ask anything unnecessary. They would just stay by his side and enjoy this peaceful time. Needless to say, Yi Futian had known about all the things that had been going on outside. Truthfully, his current condition was somewhat similar to the human ancestor during the era of the 6 great emperors. He was just an avatar formed by a piece of his consciousness. He would first materialize a physical existence, then reform it into a human shape. Xia Qingyuan should be credited for this accomplishment as well. If she had not transformed herself into the tree of life, he would need a longer time to spawn his consciousness. He was waiting for the time of his comeback. The boat was hovering on the lake as Hua Ningyu played the zither with a gentle smile. It was a magnificent sight to behold. "Miss Ningyu." A voice was heard from a luxurious-looking ship in the opposite. The word Chao could be seen engraved in many places on the ship. The ship of the Chao clan caught the attention of many onlookers. The Chao clan was the nouveau riche in the city of Qingzhou. It had increased its fame rapidly and given rise to several prominent figures in recent years. With the powerful tricks and unique leadership of its patriarch, the Chao clan soon found themselves among the elites of the city of Qingzhou. Many of the administrative staff in Qingzhou Academy were hailed from the Chao clan, for they knew that they had to extend their reigns into Qingzhou Academy to grow stronger. Their family clan could only be prosperous and create a legacy this way. Mr. Hua from Qingzhou Academy was a man of mystery. The Chao clan could not dig up his background, nor could they gauge his true strength. He had also rejected several of their advances to curry favor with him. Mr. Hua had been leading a recluse life and cared not about fame or power. So the Chao clan showed him respect to a certain extent. The young man who spoke earlier was a member of the Chao clan, Chao Yuan. He was one of the most outstanding individuals among the younger generation. He knew that his clan had been trying to win over Mr. Hua. His daughter, Hua Ningyu, was a woman with stunning features. He attempted to get closer to her, but did not get a chance. One Hua Ningyu could recognize Chao Yuan. So, she nodded at him in response and continued to disregard him. "I've heard a lot about Miss Hua Jiyu. It's my pleasure to finally see you in person today. I've always admired Mr. Hua. I hope you too could be so kind as to accept my invitation to my ship to talk about the stories of Mr. Hua." Chao Yuan looked at Hua Jiyu and said while ignoring Yi Futian. Hua Jiyu furrowed her brows in annoyance as a hint of icy glare flashed across her eyes. However, Chao Yuan did not notice any of that. Grasping her hand, Yi Futian turned to look at Chao Yuan and replied, "I'm sorry, but they're busy today." After hearing Yi Futian's words, Chao Yuan turned to stare at him. According to his intel, the former was the disciple of Mr. Hua, though little was known about him. After a while, he reverted his gaze to Hua Jiyu and Hua Ningyu, as if he had not heard Yi Futian's words earlier. Hua Ningyu continued to ignore him as the boat slowly moved forward. Soon, their boat went past the other party's ship and headed to a different location. As Chao Yuan set his eyes on the boat, slowly getting further away from his sight, a glint of gloominess flashed across his eyes. There was nothing the Chao clan could not do in Qingzhou. On the boat, Hua Jiyu glanced at Yi Futian, as if she had something to say. Then he commented, "Why are you allowing small fries to affect your mood?" After saying that, Yi Futian shot a glance at Qingzhou Lakeside, as someone was lighting up fireworks that set off in the sky beautifully. He asked, "Do you still remember when we were 16? Of course. Hua Jiyu drank in the sight of the spectacular fireworks, and quickly pushed the unhappy incident earlier into the back of her mind. Her eyes looked more beautiful than the fireworks as she gazed at them. The cultivators of Empyrean continued to arrive in the city of the ruins. The mind of the immortal sovereign of Empyrean was summoned into this world and covered the entire city of the ruins. They occupied that location and could soon take over the whole world. Wars erupted in many places throughout the whole world. It was at a scale that involved many forces, including those that ruled over the heavenly law. A terrifying war broke out in a location of the Heavenly Mandate Court. Do Zhao, Xiao Muyu, Long Chun, and the others were at different locations on the battlefield filled up by the enemies who encircled them. Unleashing the will of the fighting god to the limits, Do Zhao's body gleamed like a war god. Even so, he was still exhausted from all the battle, panting like a dog while blood was dripping from the corners of his lips. Xiao Muyu was not any better than him either. Her black apparel had outlined her perfect figure. The bloodstains only added to the overall bittersweet feel. "Will we die here?" Xiao Muyu murmured. They did not pass away during the Battle of the Heavenly Path back then. Yet, they had never expected the fight to fend off the invasion of Empyrean would be so disastrous. At that time, the sky on top of their battlefield was enveloped by a petrifying dark storm that looked like the apocalypse. The total forces of Empyrean were too great. All these years of fighting had taught them one thing. Empyrean did not consist of just one universe, but a superpower of multiple universes. The most significant individual of a universe would be called the Immortal King, who ruled over the law of that world under the command of their immortal sovereign. Ever since the opening of the space passage, the cultivators from different universes had been infiltrating this world increasingly and ceaselessly. They started wars and plundered goods. The same thing had happened over and over again. If it were to intensify further, they would eventually occupy the whole world. I haven't even become a great emperor yet. There's no way I'll let myself die here. Let's continue the battle. Do Zhao bellowed as he emanated the will of the fighting god to the max, nearly breaking his body. At once, a powerful will exploded like the unleashing of the will of a true god. Nevertheless, his spiritual energy had reached its limit. After letting out a roar, he flew into the sky and continued fighting. Watching the happening in the sky, a hint of sadness flashed across Xiao Muyu's eyes. As her gaze remained in the same place, she muttered, "Master, when will you return?" Up until that moment, she believed that her master would come back to them one day. However, she was not the only one with such sentiment. Everyone in the Heavenly Mandate Court felt the same as well. They were all waiting and believing that he would make his comeback one day. His sight pierced through the atmosphere and saw the altar. Following that, he raised his head, looked into the heavens and said, "I will surpass him. You will see it." At the Chao clan in the city of Qingzhou, the leader of the Chao clan, Chao Zheng, was sitting in the first seat in the council hall. The remaining people were important figures of the Chao clan, including Chao Yuan. They were gathered here to talk about Chao Yuan's marriage. Previously, he had mentioned his intention to be betrothed to Mr. Hua's daughter, Hua Ninyu, which moved the hearts of the people. Hence, they were here to discuss the details of this plan. "I think this plan works," someone noted. "We've got several people in Qingzhou Academy now. I've heard that the Chancellor valued Hua Fenglu very much. If we could make this marriage happen, we would finally take control of the entire Qingzhou Academy. Besides, we will have Hua Fenglu as our support. Hua Fenglu has raised many outstanding students in recent years. In the future, they will become pillars and backbones of the city of Qingzhou." "Yeah, I seconded that. Chao Yuan is pretty excellent himself. I reckon Hua Ninyu's cultivation level should be relatively high. The two of them will be a perfect match," another person commented. "This matter would benefit the Chao clan a lot. I will not agree to this before finding out Hua Fengliu's background," an elderly individual said. "This is just a proposal. If he were to reject, we could use this opportunity to dig up Hua Fengliu's background," someone answered. After listening to the people's opinions, Chao Zheng made a decision and declared, "In that case, we shall propose marriage 7 days from now." Snow fell over Qingzhou early in the morning, turning the entire landscape into a silver world. When Yi Futian arrived at the yard, his sight was filled with white snow, and Hua Ninyu was building a snowman in the middle. She even asked Hua Jiyu to help out while Xia Qingyuan stood on the sidelines and smiled. At the sight of the happening, Yi Futian did not feel the cold of winter, but a warmth that came from the deepest part of his heart. Only those who had gone through the prosperity and vicissitudes of lives and returned to live a common life could understand the beauty in the ordinary. "Brother-in-law, who do you think this looks like?" Hua Ninyu asked with a grin. She had built 3 snowmen in total. The one in the middle was a man, and the other 2 beside were women. Obviously, they were Yi Futian, Hua Jiyu, and Xia Qingyuan. What are they? Yi Futian teased with a smirk on his face. Hua Ningyu pouted like a pufferfish, as the temperament of her brother-in-law and sister could never be adequately represented by mere snowmen. Let's go for a walk to watch the snow in the city. Yi Futian strolled forward with a gentle smile, leaving his footprints on the snowy ground. Hua Jiyu and Xia Qingyuan went after Yi Futian without hesitation. After leaving the courtyard, they came to Qingzhou Academy. Many youngsters could be seen there. When the youths saw the group coming, they gave way for the latter and greeted, "Brother Yi." Yi Futian nodded happily. A sudden chilly breeze blew on his long hair. Hua Jiyu immediately went behind him and put a white coat over him. After shrugging his shoulders, the coat was firmly wrapped around him. Meanwhile, Xia Qingyuan went before him to fix his collar. "Wow!" the young boys exclaimed from the sidelines. They were staring at Yi Futian with a joyful and innocent look. They were rather envious of him. Yi Futian was relatively popular in Qingzhou Academy since he was handsome, humorous, and loved talking big. After they had gone further away, someone noted, "Look. What's wrong with being common people? Isn't Brother Yi a normal person? But look at him having beautiful girls surrounding him. What a lucky guy. Just look at yourself in the mirror, will you?" One of the girls said with disgust. At once, the expression of the person who said that earlier immediately turned gloomy. It was only natural since Yi Futian's had a stunning look. Visit myboxnovel.com to read, please. Judging from Brother Ye's temperament, he does not come across as someone normal. He may not have the ability to turn his eyes into the sun and the moon or hold the stars in his hand, but as Mr. Hua's disciple, he will not stay as an ordinary person, the girl continued. After that, her voice became softer, and she mumbled, "Who knows, but the thing about him turning his eyes into the sun and the moon might very well turn out to be true." "Don't tell me you've fallen for Brother Yi?" a boy questioned. The girl's face instantly turned red up to her ears. "Well, if you were to compare with Miss Jiyu in terms of looks, ahem." The boy really loved to run his mouth. Although the girl was young and graceful, she was in no way comparable to Hua Jiyu. "Are you tired of living?" the girl chided as she glared at him. "Okay, I'll zip it," the boy said. "Didn't you see that Brother Yi needed a coat to go out? Since he's afraid of cold, he must be a normal person. Brother Ye's handsomeness and extraordinary temperament are indisputable. I'll give you that. But it doesn't change the fact that he's an ordinary person. Y'all can tell, right? Perhaps he's doing this because he's injured," the girl stated. "Oh snap," the boy gaped at the girl and murmured, "She has completely fallen for him." After he spoke, he turned around and made his escape while the girl manifested a sword will, chasing after him. The winter in Qingzhou Academy became more lively because of them. After leaving Qingzhou Academy and walking on the streets of the city, Yi Futian caught the attention of many people, since a lot of the citizens knew him. They would greet him passionately and show respect to Hua Jiyu and Hua Ningyu. The entire city of Qingzhou was covered with a layer of white snow. All the old trees were coated with hoarfrost, turning into silver branches that looked truly magnificent. Yi Futian was strolling in the snow randomly. His pace gradually became slower. Each step he moved forward would take a long time. Hua Jiyu and the others did not interrupt him, but stayed behind silently. At one point, Yi Futian's body slowly turned incorporeal, as if he would disappear into thin air at any time. Xia Qingyuan was a little worried about him, and afraid that something would befall him. She immediately turned to look at Hua Jiyu, who stood beside her. But the latter shook her head, asking the former not to disturb him. As a person with a higher cultivation level, she knew Yi Futian had been in a state of meditation constantly lately. Yi Futian's body turned insubstantial from the tangible state, and then slowly solidified. "I am the heavenly path, I am who I am." A voice resounded in Yi Futian's mind. At that moment, he would emanate an exceptional temperament like that of a god or immortal, and then he would suddenly turn into a common folk who could not exude any aura. In the end, he reverted to the earlier state where he would search for his true self. Yi Futian raised a light smile on his face without saying a word, and continued moving forward, leaving many footprints on the snowy ground. The passerby would stare at them curiously. They wondered what he was doing, as his action was rather peculiar. Things were quite lively in Qingzhou Academy. The youths were excited as the snow continued to fall. They were all playing in the snow with each other. Nevertheless, the sound of the youngsters having fun subsided. Many of them went blank for a while before turning in the same direction. Following that, the entire atmosphere went dead silent for a moment, as everyone's attention was on the end of the snowy ground. A silhouette in black came into sight all of a sudden. The figure was burly and gallant, with a remarkable temperament. Anyone could tell that this person was extraordinary at first sight, as he gave off a domineering vibe. All the people would lower their heads as their gaze met his. They were all nervous at the sight of him. "Who is this?" the crowds muttered. The burly person shot a quick glance at Qingzhou Academy and stood on the snowy ground silently, as if they were waiting for something. The snowfall caused his black robe and hair to turn white slowly, but he stood rooted to the spot against the snowstorm and gale like a statue without moving an inch. Who is he waiting for? The teenagers became increasingly curious. After a while, there was a person heading toward Qingzhou Academy from outside in the snow. He was a handsome man dressed in white, and he was none other than Yi Futian. The moment Yi Futian caught sight of the silhouette, he immediately became high-spirited and headed toward the latter. The hearts of the youths of Qingzhou Academy skipped a beat at the sight of it. Did that person come looking for Brother Yi? Was Brother Yi not an average person after all? "You're finally here," Yi Futian said as he stopped before Yusheng. "Yeah." Yusheng nodded and remained taciturn. "Accompany me for a walk," Yi Futian requested. Then he turned around and began walking. Yusheng followed behind and wandered around Qingzhou Academy with him. Hua Fenglu watched the scene before his eyes on the academy grounds, reminiscing. It was as if the time had gone back. Many years ago, the two youths would take a walk in Qingzhou Academy just like that. They both headed toward the old tree and came to a halt. This place was once their lodging when they were still studying at Qingzhou Academy. At that time, there was a tree where they would lean against and rest. Yi Futian halted his steps before the tree and sat on the snowy ground, leaning against the old tree. Yusheng followed suit and leaned against the tree, sitting next to him. Snowflakes fell from the sky consistently. There was no sound in the atmosphere as neither of them spoke. They sat there quietly, allowing the snow to gather on their bodies. Who would have thought that the two people who were quietly sitting there were the avatar of the heavenly path, and the Devil Emperor, who ruled over the Devil realm? Beneath the ancient tree, among the snowflakes, Yi Futian and Yusheng were covered by white snow. Yi Futian's eyes were closed. In his mind, he recalled memories of his past. In his youth, he had grown up here with Yusheng. Now they had returned to this place. All the past events flashed in his mind, turning into images that were etched in his memory. At this moment, he felt as though he had returned to the past. In the past, he did not have many worries. Life was simple, and he was happy. Snowflakes landed on Yi Futian's face. He revealed a faint smile. The past and the present seemed to be overlapping. Yi Futian returned to the past. Both his face and his temperament were changing. However, he soon returned to his current state. His body shifted between being an illusory figure and a real body of flesh. All these changes were subtle and were unnoticed by others. Yi Futian's smile turned into a brilliant grin. He finally comprehended everything. The past and the present. He was both the heavenly path and himself. He was simultaneously in the past and the present. In the Qingzhou Academy, Hua Fenglu was also standing in the snow. He raised his head to admire the falling snowflakes. Right then, a figure trekked through the snow, approaching him from a distance. The figure had a humped back and appeared frail. When Hua Fenglu shifted his gaze away from the scenery, he noticed the old man. He was stupefied, seemingly in disbelief at what he was seeing. What was happening? Hua Fenglu thought. Why would he suddenly be hallucinating? Visit mybox.com to read, please. The old man paused in his tracks and looked at Hua Fenglu with a smile. Everything seemed too real. Hua Fenglu pinched himself. The old man was still standing there. With a trembling voice, Hua Fenglu called out, "Master?" "Hmm." The old man responded while nodding his head. "Grandmaster." Hua Jiyu walked toward them. She similarly could not believe her eyes as she stared at the old man. The old man smiled gently as he looked at Hua Fenglu and Hua Jiyu. Huan Yingyu was somewhat confused. She did not recognize the old man. Since when did her father have a master? You. Hua Fenglu was still incredulous about the appearance of the old man. He turned around and looked in the direction where Yi Futian was. Yi Futian was still sitting quietly underneath the ancient tree. Hua Fenglu and Hua Jiyu also looked there. Suddenly, they understood what was going on. They were astonished. Nevertheless, they grinned from ear to ear. There were even tears flowing down their cheeks. Of course, they realized what this meant. Everything would soon pass. At the same time, a terrifying power enveloped the entire city of the ruins. A gigantic face appeared in the endless sky. Ji Wudao's gaze pierced through space as he observed the situation in the city from the heaven realm. Cultivators from everywhere, including the heavenly mandate court, the dark world, and the world of Buddhism, had gathered in the city. As the ruler of the divine prefecture, Donghuang Diyuan was present too. She was the commander of the troops of the divine prefecture. Today's battle might be their last. However, they took a blood oath and vowed to protect the world that Yi Futian had created. A solemn vibe loomed over the city. The troops of the city of the ruins had departed. War was about to erupt. "Diyuan," a voice called out. Donghuang Diyuan was stunned. When she turned around and saw the figure who had appeared, her heart trembled violently. All the Donghuang Imperial Palace cultivators were astonished to see the figure. "Father." Donghuang Diyuan's voice was shaky. How was this possible? She could not believe what she saw. "I have come back to join the war," Donghuang the Great said with a smile. Underneath the ancient tree in the Qingzhou Academy, Yusheng opened his eyes to look at the sky. The war had begun. Yusheng glanced at Yi Futian, who was beside him. He saw that the latter's aura was still undergoing subtle changes. It was as though it was changing all the time. Yusheng did not disturb him. He knew Yi Futian was about to have an epiphany. Just then there was a massive commotion in the academy. Someone was riding over here. In the sky above the academy, monstrous beasts traversed the skies. Their lineup was extremely large. Many cultivators appeared in the academy, and they were all headed in this direction. "Chao Zheng from the Chao clan has come to pay a visit," a voice cried out from outside the academy. The cultivators in the academy all came out. Outside the academy, the members of the city of Qingzhou also gathered. They sensed that something was different today, and something might happen. The members of the Chao clan had probably come here for Chao Yuan's sake. It was no secret in Qingzhou that Chao Yuan fancied Huan Yinyu. The cultivators of the Chao clan stepped into the academy. They walked towards Hua Fenglu. A few elders of the Qingzhou Academy also accompanied them, smiling as they walked toward Hua Fenglu. This scene caused Hua Fenglu to frown. The Chao clan dared to show their faces here. The headmaster of the Qingzhou Academy stood not far away behind Hua Fenglu as he observed everything. He did not stop the Chao clan. It was because he knew that he was not needed. After the Chao clan rose to become the top clan in Qingzhou, they had gotten rather arrogant. However, they were acting presumptuously because they had not seen much of the world. Today, perhaps they would have a taste of real power. "Master!" Chao Zheng and Chao Yuan greeted Hua Fenglu as they bowed slightly. Then Chao Zheng said, "My son Chao Yuan has long admired your second daughter. Today, we have purposely come here to propose to her. It will be an honor to the Chao clan if my son can become your son-in-law. Please leave," Hua Fenglu calmly replied. It was as though he had cast a cold bucket of water on them. The smile on Chao Zheng's face instantly froze. Hua Fenglu didn't even bother to humor him. He immediately replied with these words. He did not even look directly at Chao Yuan. "Master, my son has extraordinary talent. In the city of Qingzhou, he is considered one of the top figures," Chao Zheng continued. "Master, Chao Yuan is a leader of the young generation. He is indeed suitable for your second daughter." The elders of the Qingzhou Academy spoke up to the side. "Get lost." Just then, a voice with a tone as cold as ice could be heard. In the distance, Yusheng glanced over at them. "Chao Zheng, and the others turned to look at him as they frowned. However, Yu Sheng's gaze was extremely frightening and seemed to contain unparalleled authority. He was domineering to the point that no one dared to look him in the eye. This caused Chao Zheng to feel humiliated. He lowered his head to avoid Yu Sheng's gaze. Who do you think you are? Since when are you qualified to intervene in the affairs of the Chao clan? Just then Chao Yuan chided coldly. Newborn calves were not afraid of tigers. His heart was full of rage. He had come to propose, but he was being humiliated. The surrounding temperature plummeted as Yu Sheng swept a glance at Chao Yuan. Yi Futian, who was leaning against the tree, opened his eyes. Yu Sheng, Yi Futian called out. Yu Sheng then retracted his aura and looked at Yi Futian. Yi Futian walked towards the crowd. He first stopped in front of Elder Qin and bowed, saying, "Greetings, Grandmaster." Elder Qin moved towards Yi Futian and pulled him up with his hands, saying, "Futian, this is not permissible." "Grandmaster, it's my honor," Yi Futian replied with a smile. Only then did Elder Qin nod in agreement. He felt a great sense of pride. The members of the Chao clan frowned, since they were being ignored. Chao Yuan was especially irritated. He was here for the marriage proposal, yet the spotlight seemed to be on Yi Futian. Yi Futian looked at Chao Yuan and commanded, "Leave." "Who are you to command me?" Chao Yuan retorted coldly. The atmosphere turned awkward. All the disciples of the Qingzhou Academy were watching them too. Some of them were worried about Yi Futian. Would Brother Yi be in danger? The Chao clan was the most powerful clan in the city of Qingzhou. "Who am I?" replied Yi Futian with a smile. He looked up at the sky and said, "I am back." The moment he finished saying this, on the battlefield of the city of ruins, which was extremely far away, a voice reverberated in the space. "I am back. I am back." The voice reverberated in the space. Everyone heard it. Immediately, the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Court, the Divine Prefecture, and other lands revealed looks of immense joy. They had expressions of astonishment on their faces. A terrifying aura appeared in the space. A divine tribulation that could destroy the world descended. Countless beams of light of catastrophe descended at the same time. On the battlefield, the invaders who took part in the battle were immediately killed off by the divine tribulation. In an instant, countless people perished. As for the Qingzhou Academy, the crowd was skeptical about who Yi Futian was speaking to. However, the next moment the sky split apart. Rumble! A divine light penetrated through the rift of space and descended, lighting up the entire sky above the city of Qingzhou. Rumble! 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 Countless beams of divine light followed after the initial light. The heavens above the city were illuminated. Dazzling halos shone far and wide. The lights came from outer space, and they surrounded the whole city. A majestic God's might could be sensed by everyone present. Instantly, everyone in the city emerged from the buildings. Their hearts were beating fast. "It's a divine miracle!" exclaimed the crowd as they knelt on the ground and worshipped the lights. They sensed God's might. Were Tianshins descending upon their city? One by one, Tianshins materialized after beams of divine light charged into the city. Each and every one of them were gods that dominated a part of the world. The crowd in the city worshipped them. What were they seeing? Tianshins filled the sky. The cultivators of the Chao clan felt their hearts racing. They, along with the disciples of the academy, were astonished by the arrival of the Tianshins. What surprised them even more was that they could sense that the Tianshins had their gazes fixed on the Qingzhou Academy. Heavenly Emperor greeted all the Tianshins as they bowed their heads in the direction of the academy. At this very moment, the crowd in the city of Qingzhou were worshipping the Tianshins. However, the latter's arrival was not without purpose. They too had come to worship. Heavenly Emperor greeted the Tianshins. The Tianshins had come to pay their respect to the Heavenly Emperor, the crowd thought. For a moment, silence enveloped the entire Qingzhou Academy. The youth stared at the Tianshins in the sky in awe. These people were all legendary figures. Now, they had come to pay their respect to the Heavenly Emperor. Who was the Heavenly Emperor? The Tianshins were all looking in the direction of the Qingzhou Academy, specifically towards Yi Futian. Could it be Brother Yi? The youths felt their hearts beating fast. Could it be that Brother Yi, who enjoyed boasting, was the Heavenly Emperor? Even the cultivators of the Chao clan wore puzzled looks. They stared blankly at what was happening. Just now, Yi Futian shouted, "I am back at the sky." Then, dazzling divine lights poured down from the heavens above, and the Tianshins came to visit him. Divine lights continued to descend upon the city. More and more Tianshins arrived. Among them were some cultivators from the Devil world. When they saw Yu Sheng, they bowed and greeted. "Greetings, Devil Emperor." "Greetings, Devil Emperor." Many other great emperors followed suit and greeted Yu Sheng. He was the guardian of this world. During Yi Futian's absence the past few years, Yu Sheng was the one who protected the world from the invasion of the Heaven Realm and the Empyrean. "Devil Emperor," exclaimed Chao Yuan. His face turned pale. Just now, he asked Yu Sheng who he was in a disdainful tone. Yu Sheng did not respond to the greetings. He stood behind Yi Futian quietly. Many years ago, the two brothers had always been like this in the Qingzhou Academy. Master, Feng Xiyuan, Tai Tu, and the other two disciples of Yi Futian rushed down from the sky and landed in the academy. They were exhilarated about Yi Futian's return. "You are reading on MYBOXN0VEL. Calm great emperors and Tianshins referred to Yi Futian as master. Yi Futian smiled while nodding his head. He scanned across the lineup of Tianshins and asked, "Is everyone doing fine?" "We have been awaiting your return," Lord Chen said. The great emperors from the Ziwei Imperial Palace bowed to Yi Futian. Lord Chen added, "Finally the day has come." "Thank you for your hard work," Yi Futian responded. He then looked at the Buddha and greeted, "The Buddha. On behalf of all the Buddhas from the world of Buddhism, I welcome the return of the Heavenly Emperor," the Buddha said while bowing. Even though he was a senior of Yi Futian, the latter was worthy of his respect, because he had transformed into the heavenly path during the battle. Yi Futian had sacrificed himself to save the world. Therefore, everyone should bow to him regardless of their status. The Buddha was no exception. "Greetings, Heavenly Emperor." Various Buddhas paid their respects to Yi Futian. Their greetings were sincere. Gu Donglu and the members of the Heavenly Mandate Court welcomed the return of the Heavenly Emperor. Gu Donglu's voice was solemn as he said this. He stood at another spot, and was also bowing to Yi Futian. Dong Huang Diyuan, and the cultivators of the Divine Prefecture, welcomed the return of the Heavenly Emperor. One by one, the leaders of each group greeted Yi Futian. Their voices reverberated in the heavens and the earth. The citizens of the city of Qingzhou were already numb from the excitement. What were they witnessing? The knees of the members of the Chao clan went weak as they slumped to the ground. Chao Yuan could not stop his body from trembling in fear. Yi Futian, the Heavenly Emperor, was being worshipped by the Tianshins. Master was not boasting. The youths in the city of Qingzhou thought. Master once said that his disciple could transform into the universe and bellow thunder. He was not exaggerating when he said that. Brother Yi was not boasting either. They murmured as they witnessed everything in awe. "Am I dreaming?" a youth asked. "It doesn't seem like you are," another person replied. "I knew from the start that Brother Yi was not an ordinary person." The young lady, who had always trusted Yi Futian's words, wiped away her tears of joy. Not only was he not ordinary, but he was also the Heavenly Emperor. Rumble. A terrifying aura pressed down, and a slit appeared in the sky. A menacing vortex loomed over the space. Through the slit, the Heaven Realm could be seen. The cultivators of the Heaven Realm were present too. Their leader sat on the divine throne of the Heaven Court. He looked high and mighty, as though he was the god who ruled over the entire world. "Who is this?" thought the citizens in the city of Qingzhou as their hearts raced. The person was like the Lord of the Nine Heavens as his god's might overwhelmed the space. He was seated on the divine throne, and was worshipped by many cultivators. He was indeed a very powerful existence. "I did not expect you to make it back alive," Ji Wudao said to Yi Futian. His gaze pierced through the vast space as he lowered his head to look at Yi Futian. He sounded somewhat surprised. Yi Futian raised his head and cast a glance at Ji Wudao. He knew everything that Ji Wudao did all these years. The latter killed Lady Qin and Book Deity, and ruled over the Heaven Realm by force. However, he did not go on a killing spree. He also helped protect the world from the invasion of the cultivators from the Empyrean. His sense of justice was still admirable. Ji Wudao, what's your goal? Yi Futian asked. The man seated on the throne was Ji Wudao. The citizens, especially the disciples in the Qingzhou Academy, were shocked when they heard Yi Futian addressing the other party. Even though they were not so familiar with the outside world, they had long heard of Ji Wudao's name. It was because he was the strongest cultivator in the world. Legend has it that Ji Wudao was the most powerful being globally. The youths in the academy had always joked around and said that they wanted to be the next Ji Wudao or his disciples. Now, the legendary figure had shown himself in front of them. Moreover, he was an acquaintance of Brother Yi. What's my goal? Ji Wudao muttered, seemingly asking himself the same question. Then he smiled and said, in terms of seeking the path and becoming immortal, I have long achieved this goal. I am immortal now. I exist along with the heavens and the earth. I shine as brightly as the sun and the moon. My true goal is perhaps fulfilling my obsession. I want her to know that I can do better than you. Why bother? Yi Futian sighed. Then he announced, I will sever your path of the emperor. You will be kicked out of the imperial realm. Be an ordinary cultivator from now on. Yi Futian sounded calm when he said this. It was as though he was just informing everyone of a usual occurrence. However, everyone in the Qingzhou Academy felt their hearts tremble violently. Yi Futian was talking about Ji Wudao here, the strongest cultivator in the world. Yi Futian wanted to sever his path of the emperor? Who in this world would dare spurt out such a bold statement? Ji Wudao rose from the divine throne. His gaze was terrifying. He cast a glance at Yi Futian. Immediately Jiutian divine swords plummeted down. Countless swords of the heavenly emperor, containing God's might, traversed across the space and charged towards the city of Qingzhou. Yi Futian raised his head and gave the swords a stare. The swords instantaneously crumbled into nothingness. They disappeared without a trace. From the looks of it, you are now even more powerful than when you transformed into the heavenly path, Ji Wudao commented. However, you did not completely eradicate the human ancestor in the past. When he was trying to escape, I swallowed him whole. I refined him to improve myself. Now I am the strongest in the world. Ji Wudao took a step forward as he declared. Therefore, I can still defeat you even if you have transformed into the heavenly path. His domineering voice echoed throughout the space. As he said this, he extended his palm. A horrifying black hole was formed, and it expanded frenziedly. In an instant, the power of the black hole enveloped the vast space. The entire world was trembling. Rumble. Even though the people residing in the 9 states were extremely far away from the black hole, they could still sense the terrifying aura emanated by it. Everything on Earth seemed to be on the verge of collapsing and being sucked into the black hole. If you have transformed into the heavenly path, I shall swallow the entire heaven, Ji Wudao declared loudly. Beams of divine light from the black hole shot up into the clouds. The whole world was shaking. Countless people were astonished by this. This was the strongest figure in the world, Ji Wudao. Black lightning pierced through the space. Even the heavenly path trembled in its wake. Yi Futian looked up. With a shift of his will, everything in the world seemed to stop, including the destructive black lightning and the terrifying vortex that wanted to consume the heavenly path. Time and space separate. As Yi Futian uttered these words, Ji Wudao's attacks seemed to exist in a separate dimension from the rest of the world. Time and space were distorted. Then Yi Futian lifted a finger. A beam of light shot out from his fingertip towards the black hole. An intense light radiated outwards after that. In an instant, everything in the world seemed to return to its initial silence. Time and space collapsed and shattered. Ji Wudao watched all of this in astonishment. When time and space returned to normal, the destructive power that he unleashed had already disappeared without a trace. His path had been destroyed. Tui. Ji Wudao let out a dull groan as he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His face was pale as the aura on his body kept dwindling. Ji Wudao, you are banished from the imperial realm for life, decreed Yi Futian. His word was the decree of the heavens. The members of the city of Qingzhou looked up at the sky. The mighty ruler of the heaven realm, the strongest cultivator in the world, had his path of the emperor severed with a finger. In the vast space, countless beams of divine light descended. The various gods of the heaven court stood in the sky. The strongest cultivator in the world, Ji Wudao, was in their midst. The scene before the eyes of the crowd was extremely impactful. Ji Wudao was the strongest cultivator and the most powerful existence in the world, yet his path of the emperor had been severed by a finger. Futian was back. He had previously defeated the human ancestor and was the heavenly emperor who became the heavenly path. Now that he had returned to fight, he was invincible. Who controlled the rise and fall of those in power? The heaven court was silent. The cultivators who had betrayed Futian and followed Ji Wudao had pale expressions that were extremely ugly. Who would have imagined that Futian would still be able to return and become even more powerful as well? Ji Wudao claimed that he had already consumed the human ancestor. With a shift of his will, he wanted to consume the heavenly path. The current Ji Wudao feared nothing, not even the human ancestor reborn. Yet he could not even withstand Futian pointing a finger at him. In the heaven court, Ji Wudao suddenly laughed. His laugh was somewhat tragic. He looked down at Futian in the city of Qingzhou below. The latter stood in the snow. He merely stood there and severed Ji Wudao's path of the emperor just like that. What mockery was this? During the age of the 6 great emperors, although my talent was unparalleled, I still kept a low profile and bided my time. Later on, when I became a great emperor myself, I wished to restructure the heaven realm. I wanted to make her dream come true and take revenge for her. Yet you were still around. She chose you, said Ji Wudao, seemingly talking to himself. He continued, during the battle of the heavenly path, you became the heavenly path and sacrificed yourself. I respect you for that. Hence, I did not slaughter the others. I believed that the future would be my era. Even if the human ancestor were resurrected, I would still not be afraid of him. Even if the various gods and the immortal sovereign descended upon the world, I still believed that I could put up a fight and become the savior of the world. He concluded, however, I was never needed by the world. Ji Wudao's tone was full of self-depreciation. She had chosen Futian instead of him. This world similarly did not need him. Since the world gave birth to you, why bother having me? Ji Wudao said with a wry smile. Why? Ji Wudao declared. Since the world has no use for me, I do not miss it either. He looked up at the sky and sighed. Then he looked at Futian and said, I will die on the battlefield. I, Ji Wudao, do not need your mercy. As he said this, he flew down. He traversed across space and time and pounced on Futian. Futian raised his head and looked at Ji Wudao. He knew that the latter had set his mind on death. All right. Futian pointed his finger at the sky again. This time, its power penetrated through the body of Ji Wudao. Instantly, his body turned ethereal and dissipated. Many people were emotional as they witnessed Ji Wudao being killed. Ji Wudao had worked hard. From being a nobody, he had become someone famous. He had been crowned the heavenly emperor twice. His life was legendary. However, just as he had mentioned, the world did not need him since Futian was around. If Futian did not exist, perhaps Ji Wudao would have become the hero of their generation. Unfortunately, there was no if. The strongest cultivator in the world enjoyed his brief moment of fame and was now forever gone. May the heavenly emperor have mercy on us, begged the cultivators of the heaven realm as they bowed to Futian. Great Skylords Black and White Almighty got down on one knee as they pleaded for forgiveness. With a shift of his thought, Futian could eradicate all of them. Even Ji Wudao was killed. The rest of them stood no chance against Futian. All of you followed Ji Wudao's command. After I disappeared, it was understandable for you to obey him. However, the heaven realm declared war on various realms. Your hands are tainted with the blood of the cultivators from various realms. Those people that you killed were once my followers. Futian looked at the cultivators of the heaven realm and announced his verdict, saying, Moreover, many of you managed to prove your path because of my guidance. Therefore, I will sever your path. You will be ordinary folk from now on. As he said this, beams of light charged down from the sky and befell the cultivators of the heaven court. As punishment for their sins, they were stripped of their paths. Their faces turned as pale as sheets. I do not regret my decision, said Pagoda King, one of the 4 heavenly kings, as he looked at Yi Futian. In the past, if I chose not to pledge my allegiance to Ji Wudao, I would still be killed by him. Why didn't we get a chance to choose to live? Yi Futian cast an indifferent glance at him. Then, he closed his eyes and shifted his will. One by one, figures appeared in the heaven court. Among them were the string emperor and book deity. The cultivators of the heaven realm, who Ji Wudao had killed, were present too. Even those cultivators, marked by Yi Futian but sacrificed in battle, came back to life. Heavenly Emperor. They also greeted Yi Futian while bowing. Their joy and astonishment were ineffable. The string emperor and book deity beamed as they thought, young master has finally reached the pinnacle of cultivation. Yi Futian had surpassed the human ancestor in terms of abilities. He could revive whoever he wanted, regardless of whether his target was a great emperor. Of course, you are free to choose your side, but you also need to be ready to face the consequences of your choice, Yi Futian said. The faces of Pagoda King and the others turned ashen. They regretted their choice. The deceased cultivators had actually come back to life. Yi Futian said, during the battle of the heavenly path, I encouraged everyone to go all out in battle, with the determination of saving the world and delivering the future generations from calamity. I promised that if we won the battle, you will be in charge of maintaining the order of the world. Now, I will fulfill my promise and grant all of you the path of the emperors. After he said this, divine light poured down from above and circled the cultivators. They were bestowed with the fate of the emperor. The crowd was shocked when they witnessed this scene. Auspicious signs filled the sky as divine light rained down. The cultivators were bathed in the divine light as they closed their eyes and meditated. Yi Futian had bestowed them with the path of the emperors. These cultivators all took part in the war. Now, Yi Futian carried out his promise and crowned them Tianshins. The cultivators who chose to leave the heaven court all felt their hearts ache as they witnessed this scene. They were very regretful of their past decision. After they left the heaven court, they experienced a tribulation. Many of them even perished under it. Those people would never have a chance of revival. All of this was because of a choice they made. Yi Futian gazed towards the city of the ruins. A terrifying aura appeared amid the invaders from the Empyrean. The will of the immortal sovereign of Empyrean had descended. Since you have proven your path to this stage, this world should be yours, the voice called out, reverberating throughout the space. Did you think you could just come and go as you please? Said Yi Futian as he glanced at the other party. With a shift of his will, countless divine lights descended from the heavens above. They immediately enveloped the city of the ruins and trapped the invaders within it. He was the heavenly path. Many years ago, I decreed that all invaders would be killed without mercy, said Yi Futian as he swept a glance over at those people. When they sensed his god's might, everyone revealed terrified expressions. Even existences on the level of the immortal kings felt the threat of death. The current Yi Futian was invincible. This world belonged to him completely. Die, commanded Yi Futian. In an instant, the great tribulations of apocalypse descended from the heavenly path and crushed the invaders. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The great tribulations of apocalypse plummeted, and many figures were crushed into dust. They perished instantly without a chance to defend themselves. Even the immortal kings only managed to struggle briefly before being killed on the spot. Presumptuous, chided the immortal sovereign of Empyrean. His voice reverberated in the heavens and the earth. He glared at Yi Futian. Yi Futian killed all the invaders, who were the subordinates of the immortal sovereign. Am I being presumptuous? Yi Futian shifted his will, and immediately, the space where the other party was crumbled. The gigantic face was crushed. Yi Futian appeared directly in the city of the ruins. The immortal sovereign wore an ugly expression. He had not anticipated encountering such a powerful opponent during his invasion this time around. The greatest danger about invading another world was that the locals had absolute control over their world. The laws in the world obeyed the rules set by the locals. Therefore, the immortal sovereign had sent some cultivators here to scout the place first. To his surprise, he encountered Yi Futian. We will meet again, the immortal sovereign of Empyrean said coldly. Amidst the crumbled space, a thread of consciousness escaped. It followed the direction of the altar as it broke free from here. It charged towards its own universe. Yi Futian stood there and glanced over towards that universe. His will shifted, and it immediately traversed the vast space and locked on to a location. Ha! Responded the immortal sovereign as he opened his eyes in a palace in the Empyrean. He glanced over towards the world where Yi Futian was in. He had actually been pursued by the latter. In the city of the ruins, Yi Futian gathered the divine power of the world. A spear materialized in his hand. He threw it into the passageway that connected the city and that universe. It was used by the other party when they landed in the city. On the other end of the passageway was the Empyrean. A shockingly loud sound could be heard. The universe shook vigorously for a moment. Then space and time were shattered as the universe collapsed. A black hole popped up and consumed everything. Time and space annihilate, ordered Yi Futian. Right then the Empyrean trembled. Yi Futian retracted his gaze. Everything in the city of the ruins returned to normal. The passageway closed, and Yi Futian's figure returned to the Qingzhou Academy. However, the crowd's amazement did not cease for a long while after they witnessed the spear that transcended time and space. Was this the ultimate realm of cultivation? Even the immortal sovereign of Empyrean was defeated with a single spear strike. Countless cultivators stood beneath the heavenly path. Their blood churned with excitement as they witnessed the scene. The heavenly emperor had returned. He was invincible in battle. No one could stand against him. We welcome the return of the heavenly emperor. A voice rang in the sky. We welcome the return of the heavenly emperor. One by one the cultivators cheered. Their voices reverberated throughout the space. In the Qingzhou Academy, the members of the Chao clan were prostrated on the ground. They were too afraid to raise their heads. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Everything felt so surreal to them. The person that they had offended was actually the heavenly emperor. On the other hand, Yi Futian did not bother sparing them a glance. Congratulations! A voice sounded. Master appeared in the sky. You have finally come to this stage, Master said with a smile. Master! Yi Futian bowed to Master while greeting him. He said, Thank you, Master, for your guidance. I achieved enlightenment because of it. You need not be so humble. You have surpassed me in your cultivation, Master replied. It's my turn now to get some pointers from you. What is your state of comprehension toward the past and the present? Master once taught me that I am both the past and the present. I did it, Yi Futian said. I am who I am in every space and time I have ever existed in. Master pressed further, asking, However, you did not alter the events in the past. You merely saved some people. Am I right? If I altered the past and stopped some events from occurring, the future would most likely be different. The present that we have now would become an uncertainty too, Yi Futian explained. Therefore, I did not do anything that would affect the past. I merely brought some people from the past to the present. Besides that, I started cultivating and comprehending again from the top, at every point in time. No wonder. Master nodded and implied. So it means that once you achieve enlightenment, you can remain in the loop of space and time, and have endless time for cultivation. As a result, you can transcend time and space beyond the pinnacle of cultivation. Exactly, Yi Futian replied while nodding. The moment he achieved enlightenment, that moment turned into eternity. In the snap of a finger, he had cultivated for eons. He was cultivating and comprehending at every point in time. Finally, all his comprehension accumulated and amounted to the current him. Master advised. I am not sure whether the universe is also infinite like you. However, with your current cultivation, you are an extraordinary existence among the rulers of the universes. Furthermore, you will grow even stronger in the future. Return to the throne of the heavenly emperor. You transformed into the heavenly path. But you also have a physical body now. You can rule over the world completely. The old heavenly path collapsed, but it never possessed a real physical body before. Nobody had ever achieved Yi Futian's current cultivation before. Most likely, no one could surpass him in the future either. Yi Futian announced, I transformed into the heavenly path. But I am not the only one who protected the world. This world should be ruled together by various parties. He glanced at the sky, and immediately, a golden sky stairwell that extended into the heavens appeared. Futian strode forward. He climbed up the sky stairwell while being showered by snowflakes. As he moved up the stairs, all the cultivators from various corners of the world raised their heads to look at him. Everyone could clearly see the stairwell. Regardless of where they were, the sky stairwell appeared as though it was right before their eyes. The entire world observed the ceremony simultaneously. "Brother Yi!" exclaimed the youths in the Qingzhou Academy. They witnessed Futian ascending the sky stairwell, as he was surrounded by divine halos and auspicious signs. Many youths had tears in their eyes. They were tears of excitement. Futian was their brother Yi, the heavenly emperor, the #1 cultivator in the world. He was worshipped by Tianshans. Everyone in the world was watching his coronation now. The youths had fun playing with Brother Yi. They bantered with Brother Yi. They listened to Brother Yi boasting about his past achievements. Hua Jieyu and Xia Qingyuan teared up as they watched Futian ascend. Tears of joy rolled down their cheeks. They knew that everything had finally come to an end. Futian would finally be delivered from all his suffering. The immense glory that he experienced now was the fruit of the tremendous suffering that he had gone through. He had survived countless tribulations and made it through many life and death situations. Him being alive today was a miracle. Now he had finally reached the peak. He was the highest existence. Everyone worshipped him. No one else would dare to act superior in front of him. No one else would dare to look down on him. No one else would dare to belittle him. The humiliation that he once went through would forever remain in the past. Glory awaited him now. What are you two waiting for? Futian smiled as he turned around to look at Hua Jieyu and Xia Qingyuan, who remained at the bottom of the stairwell. He extended his hands towards them. The two ladies exchanged looks. Then they walked up the sky stairwell hand in hand. They followed closely behind Futian. Colorful clouds flew down and weaved into splendid robes that garbed the two of them. They were adorned with phoenix coronets and rosy capes. Their beauty was unparalleled. When Hua Fenglu and Emperor Xia saw this scene, they teared up too. Emperor Xia approached Hua Fenglu and patted his shoulder. The latter looked at him, and they broke into a grin. Everything was worth it, Emperor Xia lamented as he stared at the silhouette of his daughter. From now on, the heavenly emperor is my son-in-law, Emperor Xia said proudly as he wiped away the tears in the corner of his eyes. In another corner, the cultivators of the divine prefecture stood together. Many of them were checking Donghuang Diyuan out. She revealed a brilliant smile. Her smile was sincere. She knew from a young age that Futian had a lot on his shoulders. She met him for the first time when she was 16. That was their destiny. She was well aware of everything that Futian had gone through. Now that he had finally reached the pinnacle, she could not help but feel happy for him. How can you still be smiling? Donghuang the Great commented as he looked at Donghuang Diyuan. Father. Donghuang Diyuan greeted him with a smile. Sigh. Donghuang the Great sighed when he saw her earnest smile. He lamented. You were supposed to be. Father. Donghuang Diyuan stopped him from saying more. She said, this is good enough. Donghuang the Great was stunned for a moment. Then he nodded in agreement and said, yes, this is good enough. Futian continued to move up the sky stairwell. He advanced slowly. With a shift of his will, a figure appeared behind Donghuang the Great. The latter was stunned when he first saw the figure who had appeared. Then he grinned from ear to ear. He approached the person and gave him a big hug. Welcome back, Donghuang the Great said. Futian rebuilt a body for me, Emperor Yiqing said. He came from the past. Futian had only met him once at Mount Tianyao in the city of Qingzhou. Futian went back to that exact spot where they met, and brought Emperor Yiqing to the present. We did it, Donghuang the Great said emotionally. We did it. Emperor Yiqing was similarly very emotional. After they stopped hugging, Emperor Yiqing looked at Donghuang Diyuan. Her eyes were red as she greeted, Father. Emperor Yiqing approached her and gave her a gentle hug. He said, Diyuan, I am sorry. Donghuang the Great and Emperor Yiqing were not afraid to sacrifice themselves to uphold justice. I crown them the immortal emperors of the East. They will rule over all the Tianshins in the East and be in charge of maintaining the order in the divine prefecture. A voice sounded from the sky stairwell. Divine light poured down on Donghuang the Great and Emperor Yi Qing. The two of them were assigned the title Immortal Emperors of the East and were tasked to rule over all the Tianshins in the East. Congratulations to the Immortal Emperors of the East. Someone bowed and greeted them. One by one, the cultivators bowed and greeted Donghuang the Great and Emperor Yi Qing. The voices of the crowd shook the heavens and the earth. The Buddha is concerned about the fate of all mankind. He led various Buddhas into battle. He will still rule over the West. I crown him the immortal Emperor of the West. From Spirit Mountain, he will command all the Buddhas. I bestow him the golden body of virtues and merits. He is indestructible from now on. As soon as Yi Futian decreed this, endless golden divine light rained down on the Buddha, constructing a golden body for him. Amitabha. When the Buddha was bathed in the divine light, he had a taste of exactly how powerful Yi Futian was currently. He felt emotional. No wonder Yi Futian could strip Ji Wudao from the path of the emperor with just a finger. This golden body forged by Yi Futian would most likely be able to withstand a power 10 times more powerful than a full blow from the Buddha. Yi Futian continued to decree, I crown great Emperor Ziwei the immortal Emperor of the North. He will rule over the Ziwei Imperial Palace and all the Tianshins in the north. As he said this, great Emperor Ziwei appeared in front of all the cultivators from the Ziwei Imperial Palace. Gu Donglu is crowned the immortal king of Heavenly Mandate. He will rule over the Heavenly Mandate Court and all the Tianshins in the central. Yi Qingyao the Reaper is crowned the immortal Emperor of the South. She will rule over the Dark Court and all the Tianshins in the south. The evil emperor and the dark sovereign repented at the last minute. Therefore, the evil emperor can continue to rule over the empty divine realm. I infect the dark sovereign with the bright continent. I crown Chunyi the god of light. I will forge him the bright temple. I crown Shiqiao the god of rain. I will forge her the rain temple. I crown Fang Xiyuan, Little Ling, Tai Tu and Duo Yu the great emperors of four corners. I will forge them the four corners temple. Yi Futian's decrees sounded one by one from the top of the sky stairwell. His commands echoed across space. On this day, Yi Futian, the heavenly emperor, bestowed titles to everyone who deserved it. Divine halos poured down from the sky and enveloped the vast space. Cultivators from all around the world looked at the newly crowned immortal emperors and gods with eyes of admiration. The crowd looked at Yi Futian's silhouette. He ascended to the very top of the sky stairwell. Then he turned around and declared, Now the age of the gods has come once again. The various gods will maintain the world order and teach the way to the future generations. I will not interfere in the world order. This world is collaboratively ruled by various gods together. The age of the gods had come again. Yi Futian actually did not plan to control the world order himself. Did he plan to retire after this? Countless gazes were fixed on the silhouette on the sky stairwell. He looked so heavenly as the divine light flowed around him. This scene was forever etched in the memory of everyone. They would never forget it. In the year 20 of Futian calendar, an old man and a youth were walking down a street in the city of Qingzhou. The youth was eager to know more after listening to the old man telling him the tales of the heavenly emperor. A god, the ultimate god to be exact, originated from their city. Grandfather, where did the heavenly emperor go after he ascended to the throne? Asked the youth. The whereabouts of the heavenly emperor were unknown to the world now. After he ascended, the heavenly emperor assigned various gods to rule over the world order. Then, he disappeared from the eyes of the public. No one knows his whereabouts. Some say that he is living in seclusion with his wives now. Some say that he changed his appearance in order to live an ordinary life. There are even people who claim that the heavenly emperor is now on his quest to conquer other universes, and he has already conquered many of them. The old man spoke while holding his grandson's hand. He could still vividly recall everything that happened on the day the heavenly emperor was crowned god. It was as though the event occurred yesterday. The old man continued as he looked at the sky. Of course, even if we don't have any news of the heavenly emperor, He is ubiquitous. The sky itself is his transfiguration. How about the princess of the divine prefecture? Surely she likes the heavenly emperor too. Did she get married to him? Asked the youth. That's the thing everyone in the world is dying to find out, the old man said with a sigh. Of course, Princess Diyuan likes him too. We are talking about the heavenly emperor here. Since the heavenly emperor assigned various gods to rule over the world order, does it mean that there will be no disputes in the future? The youth asked. But why is there still so much discord in the Qingzhou Academy now? The old man replied. Disputes exist wherever living beings are. Both humans and gods are no exception to this. The divine domain of the Taichu realm was bustling. There were a large number of cultivators here. Top cultivators from various worlds, who practiced very different techniques, gathered in this domain. It was because they could get cultivation techniques and treasure items from all corners of the world here. Of course, there were countless disputes here too. Many exceptional figures visited the divine domain of the Taichu realm. Every one of them were overlords in their respective worlds. However, they had to keep a low profile when they came here to cultivate. A group of youngsters was enjoying tea in a tavern. This tavern was 33 stories tall and was luxurious. The group of youngsters was on the highest floor, where they could enjoy the scenery of the lively domain. As expected, the divine domain of the Taichu realm is extraordinary. It is more prosperous than any other city in our world. Among the group was a maiden dressed in green robes. She was around 18 years of age. Her eyes sparkled like water, and she had a face that could launch 1,000 ships. No one dared to sully her. The Taichu realm is one of the worlds under the rule of the Palace of Gods. Uncle said that currently, among the discovered universes, this universe ruled by the Palace of Gods is the most powerful. The Taichu realm is a major world, and can be ranked among the top 5 worlds. The divine domain is the center of the Taichu realm, so it is naturally prosperous. Next to the woman was a youth dressed in white robes with a sword on his back. He spoke in a gentle tone, and was very sophisticated. I say, miss, have you had your fun? Shouldn't we be going home? Said a burly youth sitting across from the maiden. His skin had a bronze sheen, and his figure revealed muscles full of explosive force. His pupils were full of vigor. However, when facing this maiden, he was begging her in a pitiful manner. Isn't it nice to see the scenery in other worlds? Why do we need to go back? The maiden said with a faint smile. Brother Shou, how many times have you tried to persuade little Ian to return home? The white-robed youth with the sword said with a smile. This fellow, could it be that you do not know how much attention her looks are drawing? The burly youth grumbled. You Shou, are you lacking self-confidence? Said another maiden dressed in white robes sitting beside little Ian. She was similarly extremely beautiful. She had an extraordinary innate temperament. She appeared elegant and noble. Elder sister June, it is not that I do not have self-confidence. It is just that the gazes of those fellows were too disgusting. Little Ian also did not allow me to take action against them, complained Yu Shou in a depressed tone. He swept a glance around them. As expected, he saw many people looking at them, especially little Ian and elder sister June. What are you looking at? Yelled Yu Shou as he stood up. His yell was like a roar of thunder, causing the wine cups on the tables of those watching them tremble. The crowd immediately retracted their gazes when they knew that this youth was not to be trifled with. There were crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the divine domain of the Taichu realm. There were countless powerful cultivators here. Those who dared to act so presumptuously most likely came from extraordinary backgrounds. Paper tiger, said elder sister June with a faint smile. In reality, she was just in her 20s. However, she was the oldest, so she was their leader away from home. With little Ian around, Yu Shou would forever be just a paper tiger. They would not allow him to act out as he pleased. If not, with his temper, they would never enjoy peace. Sit down, chided Yi Jian as she stared at Yu Shou. Yu Shou immediately gave her a pitiful glance and replied, All right. As he said this, he sat down. If the members of the devil world saw their young master acting in such a manner, they would have been stunned. Gu Shijuan told Yu Shou, the Taichu realm is a major world ruled by the Palace of Gods. There are cultivators who cultivate different techniques here. This is still a place worth exploring. Please don't be so anxious to return home. All right, elder sister June. Yusho answered Gu Shijuan in a very respectful tone. They had all grown up together. Gu Shijuan was slightly older, so she played the role of elder sister. Their group sat there quietly. The people in the tavern were chatting amongst themselves. Their group heard many people talking about the same topic. The proud sun list of the world of the gods? Exclaimed Yi Jin in curiosity. Yi Jifan explained. Based on what they said, only cultivators below 30 are eligible for the proud sun list. The palace of gods rules over many universes, and they are all interconnected. There are only 81 members on the proud sun list. New members replace old members. Those on the proud sun list are all proud sons of heaven. They can be considered prominent figures of the current generation. Yi Jifan was born a few days after Yi Jin. Both of them had similar names. The abilities of those on the proud sun list should be at the Renhuang plane. They can indeed be considered peerless figures, added Gu Shijuan as she nodded her head. Ordinary people could not reach such a plane at such a young age. Hence, almost all those on the proud sun list came from powerful backgrounds. Many of them were descendants of the various gods of the Palace of Gods. They are all just showy with no solid worth, said Yu Shou in an underestimating tone. Yi Jin looked at him and asked, "Where did you learn such words?" "I learned it while touring the world with you," replied Yu Shou. Gu Feiyang got on the Proud Sun list by force, suppressing Emma Wuyo. He was listed on the Proud Sun list by the Tianji Palace. The Tianji Palace prophesied that Gu Feiyang would have the chance to reach the top 3 in the future, said someone who was having a discussion to the side right then. "Who is this Gu Feiyang?" someone asked curiously. Another person explained, "He is a descendant of Emperor Gu. Rumor has it that he began cultivating when he was 3 years old. He proved his path when he was 10 and began challenging cultivators from all over the world at 15. He has yet to record a loss. He wishes to emulate his predecessor, Emperor Gu, and prove his path through combat. Rumor has it that he is, as his name suggests, he is domineering and arrogant. He does not consider ordinary people his equals. If my predecessor were Emperor Gu, one of the core members of the Palace of Gods, I would be even more arrogant than he is now. However, that is because I have the backing of my ancestors," someone said with a smile. Just as that person was speaking, the surrounding space suddenly fell silent. Many people were looking in the same direction. A group of people had entered the tavern. Their leader was a person in his 20s. He wore a long robe. His long jet-black hair fluttered in the wind. His handsome face gave off an indescribable suave air. Just by his temperament alone, he could be considered a prominent figure. As he walked, a formless boundary field seemed to form around him. He glanced at the speaker and said, "You know what to do." The expression of the speaker turned pale. He had already been signaled by his companions. He knew that this person was Gu Feiyang. The speaker decisively slapped himself in the face a few times. He bowed and pleaded, "I have been careless with my words. Please forgive me." Gu Feiyang cast a glance at him. Then he took a seat in a corner. The tavern turned exceptionally quiet all of a sudden. Suddenly, Gu Feiyang raised his cup, and the wine in it transformed into a sharp sword that slit the throat of the other party. The person was killed with a single attack as he fell to the ground. The silence in the tavern grew more prominent. No one dared to speak a word. The crowd even held their breath. Yi Jin frowned, seemingly displeased. This man was too ruthless. He slaughtered a person due to a slight disagreement. Yu Shou was a reckless lad too. However, he would never injure anyone unless the other party was an atrocious person. "You come over and pour me a cup of wine," Gu Feiyang ordered Yi Jin coldly, seemingly sensing her dissatisfaction. All the eyes were on Yi Jin in the silent restaurant. At first sight of the woman's stunning features and extraordinary temperament, anyone would know that she was not an everyday person. Even so, how could she hold a candle to Gu Feiyang? Within the world reigned by the Palace of Gods, there were only a handful of people who could be comparable to Gu Feiyang. He was listed on the Proud Sun list through his abnormal talents and was undefeatable. The Tianji Palace had even put him in the top 3 of the Proud Son list. Moreover, he was the descendant of an ancient emperor. Nevertheless, Yi Jin paid no heed to any of that, and merely furrowed her brows. Gu Feiyang was being too arrogant. He would murder someone at a whim, and even dare to make her pour him a cup of tea. Although Yi Jin remained her composure, the people around her had been driven up the wall. Gu Shijuan's expression turned gloomy, while Yi Jifan had already manifested swords will around him. Who was Yi Jin? She was the daughter of the Heavenly Emperor and the Empress. From the day she was born, no one would dare to disrespect her, let alone humiliate her like that. Destroy your cultivation, and I'll let you leave this place alive. Yu Shou's expression turned sullen. Although he remained seated, anyone could tell that he could barely hold back his anger. He would have battled that man if it weren't for Yi Jin's disrelish of him getting into trouble. Suddenly, the entire restaurant turned dead silent. What was Yu Shou talking about? Was he asking Gu Feiyang to destroy his cultivation? Everyone stopped what they were doing in the ominous silence. It was as if they had forgotten how to breathe. The people beside Gu Feiyang were stunned as they gaped at Yu Shou in bemusement. Who was this lunatic that did not know his place? This man might have been burly, but was he born without a brain? Boom! A sword will suddenly burst out. Then a cultivator in white could be seen sitting there with swords, encircling his entire body, pressuring the restaurant. Turning to look at the others, he asked, "What should we do if someone were to disrespect young Master Gu?" A cultured-looking middle-aged man commented, "Kill." Indeed. The cultivator in white nodded. Turning his gaze at Yi Jin, he bellowed, "It's your pleasure to be able to pour a cup for young Master Gu. Why won't you come forward and do what you should do?" Yu Shou glanced at Yi Jin, brimming with killing intent. Although they had been traveling to different universes together, and had met all sorts of people, encountering such a group of arrogant people was new to them. Seeing that Yi Jin, Yu Shou, and the others remained unmoved, the cultivator in white got up and walked toward them. The sword will hovered around his body, while a sword manifested on top of his head. The sight of it sent chills down the spines of the crowds. When the sword on his head pointed at Yi Jin, he questioned, "Young Master Gu, do you still need her?" "Do whatever you deem fit," Gu Feiyang uttered without lifting his head. Although Yi Jin was an exceptionally beautiful woman, he was not very attracted to her. After all, women would only affect his cultivation. So he was not interested in women in general. Roger that. The cultivator in white turned to Yi Jin and said, "If you would kneel and beg for forgiveness, you could still live to see another day." Jifan. Gu Shijuan raised her head and looked at Yi Jifan. Understanding what she meant, he summoned a sword will from a distance that lit up the heavens. In that instant, the cultivators inside the restaurant felt a powerful killing intention, while some were even temporarily blinded. What just happened? Their hearts were pounding like crazy as they checked the surroundings. Although they could not notice anything out of place, blood flowed down from the forehead of the snobbish cultivator in white, and he dropped to the ground face first. His eyes were wide open at the moment of death, and he didn't even know what had just happened. Yi Jifan, the son of Yi Wuxian and Lu Chenyu, was the disciple of the 3 sword gods. His father, Yi Wuxian, the Desolation Sword God, and the Lihan Sword God, together with the God of Light, would guide him in practicing the swordsmanship of light. Yi Futian was his godfather. Hence, he was given the name Jifan, which was similar to Yi Jin. The atmosphere inside the restaurant was still silent. Stares of disbelief were gaping at the corpse. Then they turned to look at Yi Jiqian and her group and gasped. Were these people this powerful as well? It seemed like they were not ordinary people. Even so, why would they incur the wrath of Gu Feiyang? Who would dare to cross him in the world ruled by the palace of gods? No matter their might or background, they would only meet their demise in the end. Glaring at the corpse on the floor, Gu Feiyang put down the cup in his hand. He unleashed a terrifying aura that instantly permeated the entire restaurant at that moment. When that happened, nearly all the cultivators in the restaurant got up and fled from the scene. They knew huge trouble was about to befall. There was a gale in the restaurant when Gu Feiyang got up. The entire atmosphere of that place changed as he shot a dark look at Yi Jin and the others. Many cultivators from afar were stunned when they noticed Gu Feiyang unleashed his skills. Who would dare to provoke him? It was a good thing since they could witness the might of the person who had entered the Proud Sun list. Bang! There were cracks everywhere in the restaurant right after Gu Feiyang took a step forward. The atmosphere was pervaded by his aura, when a phantasm of an ancient god appeared behind him. After pointing his finger at Yi Jiyin and the others, the heavens fell apart. Countless light of destruction was fired at them with the intention of annihilating them. The thrust of his finger was like the attack of a heavenly immortal, unleashing like a divine tribulation. Many cultivators looked at them in pity. Although the sword behind Yi Jifan was unsheathed, Yu Shou stood before him. At once, a catastrophic maroon light of the blade lit up the atmosphere and flew toward this location. There was a conspicuous line that split the sky. Numerous catastrophic light rays shattered the force of the tribulation, while the maroon light of the blade slashed the finger of the heavenly immortal in half. It did not stop until it obliterated the phantasm of the ancient god. Bam! Following a loud bang and the flash of the light of the blade, Yi Jiyin and her group were still alive and kicking. Instead, Gu Feiyang was sent flying out of the restaurant while his finger was shaking. Blood could be seen dripping down from it. What the? The hearts of the onlookers skipped a beat as they wondered who that person was. They could not believe that a top achiever of the Proud Sun list, Gu Feiyang, was sent flying backward with only one attack. You're definitely tired of living. Yu Shou berated with a death stare. Anyone who would dare to humiliate Yi Jiyin was getting on his nerves. He was named Yu Shou, and his name had the meaning of protection. After taking a step forward, the catastrophic light radiated the firmament, turning it into maroon color, intimidating the surrounding cultivators with his heavenly might. At that moment, they knew Yu Shou was a powerful individual. After a maroon demonic blade descended from the sky, Yu Shou held it in his hand and fired another slash even more powerful than the previous one. As the light of the slash filled the sky, Gu Feiyang howled and manifested the phantasm of the ancient god that hurled a domineering palm out to fight against the maroon demonic blade. Suddenly, deafening clangs were heard before the palm was split open. The slash of the maroon demonic blade fired at the body of the ancient god. Despite Gu Feiyang's best effort, the haughty man who entered the Proud Sun list could not stop the slash of Yu Shou. This is presumptuous. A loud roar could be heard from the sky as a divine light shone on the blade of Yu Shou, breaking it in the process and sending him backward as he let out a groan. The hearts of the crowds were beating like a drum when they felt the might of a heavenly immortal. Lifting their heads, they immediately caught sight of the silhouette of a heavenly immortal. Feiyang, are you all right? The heavenly immortal in the sky asked as he stared at Gu Feiyang. I'm fine. Gu Feiyang's expression turned glum, as he was utterly defeated. This individual was one of the heavenly immortals of the Palace of Gods, a mighty cultivator under the command of the ancient emperor. The heavenly immortal nodded. Right then, he gazed at Yu Shou and the others condescendingly. Turning his eyes into golden color, he fired divine lights from them. Then he admonished, "How dare you behave like a bunch of barbarians here? You shall all die now." The crowds instantly turned their eyes on Yu Shou. This individual was truly overpowering. It was unfortunate that his opponent was Gu Feiyang. Now that a heavenly immortal had arrived, no way any of them could survive anymore. Which lowlife worm dared to disrespect my young miss and act like a savage? Another voice could be heard bellowing from the sky. Just then, the sky was split open, and a dazzling divine light beamed down. Then a heavenly immortal dressed in a golden feathered garment could be seen descending from the firmament. It's a heavenly immortal. Many cultivators looked up at the sky of the Tianchu realm, only to realize that it was split open. A heavenly immortal clad in a golden feather clothing was covered with the divine light. That feather clothing was like sturdy and clear-cut armor. Another heavenly immortal had shown up in the sky, but they were not from the Palace of Gods. Young miss, the eyes of the crowds were on Yi Jiyin and her group. To think that these people were highborn individuals who had a heavenly immortal as their guardian. However, which force would dare to cross the Palace of Gods in a world reigned by it? A fellow elder of the Palace of Gods would be an exception, but that would be impossible. Otherwise, Gu Feiang would have known them. The demon monarch. The pupils of the heavenly immortal of the Palace of Gods shrunk as he stared at the figure dressed in golden feather clothing. Then he mentioned, "I am one of the itinerant cultivators from the Palace of Gods, Taishan. Identify yourself." The Palace of Gods was ruled by a group of elders whose influence extended across the entire world. There were many itinerant cultivators under the command of the elders. Each of them was a heavenly immortal, and the itinerant cultivator Taishan was one of them. Divine light surrounded his body, making him look intimidating. Hovering in the void, he glanced at the masses with a condescending look. In the infinitely vast multiverse, the Palace of Gods was one of the powerful forces that ruled many universes. Tianchu realm was one of their territories. The Palace of Gods was the most prominent and supreme organization in this world. So he did not have to care about his opponent's background. His enemy was the demon monarch, the transmuted form of Little Condor. He turned his eyes to look at Yusho and thought, to think that second elder's son was bullied by some random person. If he were here, he would have cut the enemy in half. Besides, young Miss was here as well. These cocky lowlifes were totally out of line, making the Condor Emperor furious. Uncle Condor. Yi Jian and Yusho greeted. Little Condor was their playmate. Although he was the mount of Yi Jian's father, they would always pay him respect. They would often ride on him to travel around, while he would also make jokes to alleviate their mood. "Young Miss, I'll go and finish off that scoundrel now," Little Condor stated. Who did they think the young miss was? How could he allow her to be bullied by some strangers? It was too much. The itinerant cultivator Taishan furrowed his brows. Immediately, a terrifying divine power permeated the sky. A storm stirred up by the invisible divine power rushed toward Little Condor, as an overpowering god's might pressurized the atmosphere. What a ridiculous remark. The whole atmosphere rumbled when the itinerant cultivator Taishan took a step forward. A matchless god's might pervaded the sky as if reality would crumble at any time. Simultaneously, multiple skyscraping stone pillars descended from the sky, aiming at the location of Little Condor, trying to repress the whole area. Whoosh! When the gale blew up, Little Condor transformed his body back to its original form, looking colossal. All the golden feathers on his body were like sharpened divine weapons. His form turned into a sparkling radiance when he flapped his wings. They produced flying slashes that tore open the fabric of space, cut off all the skyscraping stone pillars, and flew toward the itinerant cultivator Taishan's towering body of the heavenly immortal. In that instant, the gigantic figure gleamed and transformed into a bona fide divine body that assimilated with the world, as if it was a god that ruled the universe. Conjuring incredible force in his arms, he hurled a fistful that shattered the atmosphere, stirring up a violent cyclone. It traversed the void and fired at Little Condor. "Heaven collapse," a resounding voice piped. The sky trembled at his command. Countless cultivators nearby felt like their bodies were about to break into pieces. Yet, Little Condor remained unflinching and flew forward as his wings turned into genuine divine arms. Godslayer! Clang! Clang! The ear-piercing sound of the wings cutting through the fistful could be heard. The unstoppable slashes collided with the heaven-collapsing fist head-on, causing a deep, resonant bang that disintegrated many surrounding buildings. Most people were flattened against the ground when the storm swept through. Almost no one could stand up when the ripple hit. This is madness. The hearts of the cultivators of the Tianchu realm skipped a beat at the breakout of the battle of the heavenly immortal. No one had expected a foreign cultivator would fight the heavenly immortal of the Palace of Gods without hesitation. Sounds of clashes could be heard in the sky ceaselessly. The atmosphere would quiver intensely at each collision. The scale of the battle between two heavenly immortals must be unimaginably spectacular. "Hey beast, how dare you! Don't think you get away after defying an itinerant cultivator of the Palace of Gods." The itinerant cultivator Taishan chided angrily in the middle of the fight. He could not believe that the demon monarch could wipe the floor with him. "Don't go around flaunting the name of the Palace of Gods. It means nothing to me. Who are you to bully my young miss?" Little Condor continued in a loud voice. As a follower of my great master, I would be ashamed to return to him if I could not even slay you vermin of a cultivator right now. Slash of sparkling radiance. Right after he spoke, a dazzling golden divine light tore open the sky, creating a fissure in the fabric of space. When the brilliance cut through the heavens, a spurt of blood appeared as the itinerant cultivator Taishan groaned in agony. The impact of the attack sent both the itinerant cultivator Taishan and Little Condor flying backward, canceling out the powerful storm. The crowd raised their heads to stare at the sky and noticed blood oozing out of the gigantic body of the heavenly immortal. The sight of the missing limb was a little too eerie to behold. The itinerant cultivator of the Palace of Gods, the heavenly immortal Taishan, had gotten one of his limbs chopped off. What a crazy turn of events! To think that one could witness an undaunted individual fight one of the strongest younger generations of the Palace of Gods, Gu Feiyang, while the former's reinforcement, the demon monarch, sever the limb of the itinerant cultivator. Was there actually someone who would stand against the Palace of Gods? What about the master of the demon monarch? Could it be that the woman who Gu Feiyang had asked to pour him a cup of drink was actually the progeny of the demon monarch's master? Should that be the case, how powerful could the demon monarch's master be? Another booming sound was heard when Yusho hurled attacks at Gu Feiyang. The former easily defeated the cocky cultivator, who entered the proud sun list. The entire fight was one-sided. I don't care who you are, but you'll be skinned alive for offending the Palace of Gods. The voice of the heavenly immortal Taishan echoed through the heavens. Thunders rumbled when his voice traveled to the sky, then it was split open. Following that, a peerless god's might pervaded the atmosphere. Everyone in the Taichu realm lifted their heads to gape at the sky. Many of them showed reverence and bowed to worship their deity. Little Condor frowned after raising his head to stare at the sky. This world was controlled by the Palace of Gods. In other words, its will would be equivalent to the will of the world. The itinerant cultivator Taishan must have informed the heavens earlier. An enormous divine palace could be seen at the peak of the firmament. A lineup of the itinerant cultivators of the Palace of Gods was hovering outside the palace. At that time, a silhouette opened his eyes while sitting in a lotus position inside the divine palace, and peered at the lower realm condescendingly. With just a glance, countless rays of divine light beamed toward the Tianchu realm. Meanwhile, a heavenly might filled up the atmosphere, flattening against Little Condor, Yusho, Yijin, and the others. It was especially bad for Yusho, Yijin, and the likes. Under the suppression of the heavenly path, their faces turned ashen, and their bodies turned feeble. Kneel. A voice sounded like the heavens roared from the above. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.